Hello, welcome everybody. We're just getting started, letting people in, and we'll be get starting in just 1 minute as people are able to join the session. Welcome to our first session dedicated to the work of local governments working with Doughnut Economics. We'll be getting started in just a minute. Welcome everybody. Welcome. Thanks for joining us. I'll get started so we make the most of our time today, and as people will be joining in time for the main focus of the session, which is really the presenters. Thank you and happy Global Doughnut Days. My name is Leonora Grčeva. I'm the Cities and Regions lead at the Doughnut Economics Action Lab. So I support the work of local and regional governments that work in various ways with Doughnut Economics. So over the past 3 or 4 years, we at DEAL have been learning with and from cities that have been picking up the tools and concepts of Doughnut Economics, adapting, contextualizing, and developing their own strategies, processes, plans, and workshops, tools, all based on Doughnut Economics. Till now, over 90 places around the world have started working or in some way exploring these ideas in their place, and over 50 have already formally brought the ideas and tools into their policies and processes. So today we're also very happy to be launching the version 2, the update of the Cities and Regions Let's Get Started guide, a guide for everybody working in, with, or advocating for the work of local governments that offers many ways to get started, and now has been updated with 12 case studies from 12 places around the world, contributed by those that will lead the work in the places. I'll share the link to the tool in the chat. And today I'm very thrilled to be joined here by a group of brilliant change makers from local governments who have contributed some of those cases. And each of them has been leading the work with Doughnut Economics in various ways. Let me also just share my screen. For a moment, so we'll be joined by and hear presentations from five places: Amsterdam in Netherlands, Bad Nauheim in Germany, Brussels in Belgium, Glasgow in Scotland, and Ipoh in Malaysia. And without any further ado, really, and this is just sharing the kind of an image of the new guide that we will share the link to in the chat. We won't, because we have so many presenters and so many amazing insights to be hearing today, we won't have time to have a conversation and a Q&A, but we invite you to add any comments, questions in the chat, and we'll try to pick them up as the presentations go along. And also we will be hosting a more informal Q&A room on another part of the platform 15 minutes after we finish this session, and I'll point you to it as we end. So without further ado, I'll hand over to Elsbeth Visser, who's a Senior Strategic Policy Advisor for Sustainability from the City of Amsterdam, and Frakian Karsten, who's a Senior Policy Advisor for Circularity, to share with us the experience and the story of Amsterdam and their work with Doughnut Economics. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Leonora. Let me just share our presentation. And then, oh, is it showing full screen? No, now it is, right? Full screen.
Yes, it is.
Okay, great. So Frauke and Anna and I will take you through what Amsterdam is doing to implement Doughnut Economics. To be fair, it will be a little bit of a hodgepodge of things. That is because it is a little bit of a hodgepodge, but hopefully it will still inspire people. So I think most people know that Amsterdam was the first city to launch a city portrait for the Doughnut. And I think maybe the main thing to highlight from that is the framework we developed together with Teal and C40, which is the matrix that you see here. And that is, if we look at the donut from a city perspective, we should look at these four different lenses: the social, local, and the the local ecological, which I think makes sense for a lot of us. But I think that global lens, or the global social lens and the global ecological lens, was still quite new. I also see that we're quite unique in applying that global lens as well. To just give you an example of how we're implementing more that global lens, so we have a circular monitor, and that monitor looks at the natural resources we use in Amsterdam. And I think one of the results is that actually you can see, so originally we thought about 70% of emissions were scope 3, but from the monitor we know it's up to 90%, and that shows how important circular economy is. And we've also calculated, so if you look at the economic value of the products that we use, or the natural resources that we use, it's about 27 billion euros. But if we then take into account the ecological cost, it's another 27 billion euros, and the social costs. So these are all costs that happen in the supply chain. So outside of Amsterdam, outside of the Netherlands, probably, that's another 4 billion euros. So basically, if we take these things into account, our product should be 160% more expensive. So this framework that we have for the donut, or the matrix, we've applied it to several different important policy documents. So for example, we have our local economic vision, that is a new Amsterdam spell that you see here. Sorry, we don't have these in English. So our local economy vision mentions it. Our mobility vision is now, instead of focused on how can we get how can we facilitate the most mobility possible, it has rethought what does mobility mean in a city, or what does public space mean, and maybe we shouldn't be focused on mobility as much as we should see public space as a living room where people come together. So it's the social aspect, but also doing less on mobility also has ecological advantages. So that's sort of the triangle you see there. And the other one is the comprehensive vision of Amsterdam. So that's the spatial planning up until 2050. Also, it mentions the donut. That means that not all policy documents are focused on the donut, as I noticed that sometimes people think that, oh, and now in Amsterdam, everyone is implementing the donut in every policy. Unfortunately, that is not the case. So it's still quite dependent on people who know the donut, want to work on it, have like the enthusiasm to bring it in these policy documents. So that is, I think, a vulnerability. And what you also see that often it is mentioned, but I think people don't always know yet what that would mean. So for some of these things, we're also still thinking about what it would mean to really implement the donut, for example, in our comprehensive vision. So given that now you see it's quite dependent on different people doing different things, I think you can see that what we need is a more systemic approach. So like a few other cities, we developed a decision-making tool. I will say, though, it's not as as sophisticated as the tool that Cornwall developed. I'm very jealous of that one. But so this is a bit more basic, and it's also not officially based on the donut. In the Netherlands, we have a concept called brede welvaart. That's something like broad prosperity. It's similar to the donut in the sense that it looks beyond GDP. But I will say it's less systemic than the donut. It still looks at things like one of the topics is consumption, for example, meaning we need to protect consumption, which I feel like it's not really in donut thinking. However, there is a lot of traction in the Netherlands for this. So our municipal executive wanted a tool. So we've developed a tool based on this concept. And what you see sort of an image of what it could look like, what we bring to the municipal executives. And basically what you see in red and green, those are those are pros and cons for certain topics or when it comes to certain themes. So, for example, we have here natural capital, but also things like economic capital, security, housing. So if we bring a certain policy proposal, how many pros and cons are there? And so it should help the municipal government in making decisions, but also in our council. But for now, it can only be requested 5 times a year, 5 times a year by the municipal government and 5 times a year by the council. So it's still quite minimal, but we are also working on other things. So all of these things, I think you have 3 things here. I could have a whole webinar just about these, like one of these 3 things. So it will be quick, but if anyone has questions, you know where to find us. So another way we are approaching this systemically is that, so our city is divided up in 10 budget programs. And since a few years, all budget programs are required to report on what they do on sustainability, so the climate, equal opportunities, democratization, and digitalization. So even if you work in education, you will still have to show what you are doing to combat climate change. So this is sort of making a lot of these different donut topics everyone's problem. So we should all be working on this. It's not just the sustainability department that works on sustainability. It's not easy. I mean, we get people like, what am I supposed to do? I work in education or in housing. What's my responsibility? So we are developing tools for this, but this is something that will take a few years. Another thing is that what we're doing is we're working towards a climate budget. And in our case, a climate budget means basically a carbon budget. So we have calculated the CO2 emissions of every budget program. And in the next few years, we'll be assigning basically carbon budgets to those programs and reduction paths. And another way that we're working on a systemic approach is that in our investments, we are working on what we call an avoided cost method. So what we now see that a lot of investments in sustainability are seen as this is too expensive. Mostly it's too expensive. But if you take into account the cost that you are avoiding in the future, not just on climate issues, but also on social issues, just for example, electric ferries are more expensive than diesel ferries, but what we are avoiding is air pollution and thereby, the health cost. So we've developed a taxonomy. You can see sort of a picture of the taxonomy. Unfortunately, we only have it in Dutch. To take into account, like in our investment decisions, like take into account at least the climate more. These were my slides. I'll now hand it over to my colleague Vrouwtje Anno, who works more with like initiatives in the city itself.
Yes, thank you, Elsbeth. Yes, I'm very glad that Elsbeth is focusing on the tough processes inside our organization, and that my focus is more to work together with partners in the city, just the external partners. And the framework I'm using from is the implementation agenda for Circular Amsterdam, which is now nearly a year active. And you see here the image with a lot of goods and materials, but in the middle you see together with the city. That's a great priority in this agenda, and that's what I am involved with. Even kijken. And that for me, that means in my part, we have together with the city, with the entrepreneurs, but for me, it is together with Doughnut-driven neighborhood initiatives. That is my focus, and what we are doing is we are developing a support system that meets the needs of those initiatives, and that finally contributes to the systemic change that is needed to realize the circular society. And we do it around 4 pillars. You see it mentioned. And recognition, financing, capacity, and space. And for me, it's really interesting to experience. And that's why we're now setting it on the first place, recognition. Recognition is so important for all those many initiatives in the city who are already active on the Doughnut and doing the right things on a new way, and that they can be seen more, that they can have a better position, and that we see them also as partners to work together. And we experience that gives a lot of energy in the city. We are now just starting a program about these pillars. I don't mention them all because of the time. And this year and next year is just building up everything. And hopefully in 2026, the last year, we will speed up, and also with the budget we have, 5 million euros, that it can expand more at the end by working with a lot of different partners. So that's our goal in the end. And why are those initiatives so important? That is, I think, because they are really good examples in the city, giving the circular society, making them tangible and accessible for all the people who live and work in Amsterdam. So we want that every neighborhood should have such an initiative. And then we don't have to forget that there are already a lot of initiatives. So they need the support, and we are now implementing a process that we are really partnering, we're really working together. And what is very important for us is then the existing already Amsterdam Doughnut Coalition, that we are happy that we have a coalition which supports and a network organization which has a lot of contacts in the city. And what we also do as a first step is that we strengthen the position of the Amsterdam Doughnut Coalition, so that in a way that they can also implement the tools that the deal are developing. So that is really interesting for us. And for example, next Friday, we have, of course, we have for the fourth time, the Amsterdam Doughnut Day, in which we are all trying to bring some of the tools in practice, together with initiatives, entrepreneurs, and a lot of my colleagues, to work together, to network, to see how we can build together an ecosystem for around those Doughnut-minded initiatives in the city. So that's what I am involved with this whole process, and it's very exciting. It's also not easy, because I still have, like Elsbeth, we have our big organization, and we have to get to reckon about the limitations that are there. But because we work together with the city, it gives a bit more freedom to experience and to have to use the knowledge and the experience that is already in the city around the Doughnut.
Thank you so much, Fjake and Elsbeth, for that. I also learned so many new amazing updates of what you've been doing in Amsterdam. And I really appreciate how you frame something that we continue to learn. These ideas of Doughnut Economics and the tools, they're powerful. They resonate in so many aspects. They can be used in so many different ways in local government, but not as an all-encompassing tool for everything at all once. There is no such thing as a city doing a Doughnut or Doughnut Economics, and then that's all a city does. So it's about finding the different spaces, and both, you're doing it both in a very budget, finance, internal decision making, and empowering the local community kind of way that really shows kind of the very different things you can be doing and completely different interpretations of what the ideas can come to. Thank you so much. Yes, Elsbeth, sorry.
No, I just said thank you.
And any questions for Elsbeth and Franke, do share in the chat or join us afterwards for the session. I'll invite our next speaker, Yuge Ley, Advisor for Sustainability from the city of Bad Nauheim in Germany, to share with us about the work and journey of Bad Nauheim. Yuge, floor is yours.
Yes, hello. Thank you, Leonora, and hello, everyone at their screens. I'm going to apply what I learned in an earlier session to allow better accessibility. So I'm an Asian woman with black hair and a gray jumper for those visually impaired. And I'm going to take you through the journey of Doughnut Economics implementation in Bad Nauheim today. Right. So Bad Nauheim is not the biggest city, so I'm just going to quickly provide a background to our city because I'm sure most of you won't know it. We are located in Germany, in central Germany near Frankfurt. That's probably more familiar with this place, and we're 30 kilometers north from Frankfurt, and we're in an exceptionally fertile region with lots of farmland around, and we are a spa town, you call that in Germany. So we are a rehabilitation city where people come to get healthy. So health is a very important factor in our city, and we have 14 clinics in total. So yeah, this is the health sector is a very big sector in our city. We also have a few little quirky knowledge things. We have Elvis Presley lived in Bad Nauheim back in the day when he did his military service. So we have a lot of visitors from all around the world who come every year to Bad Nauheim. So that means we are around 34,000 inhabitants, but our infrastructure can hold up to 60,000 people. Our political setting at the moment is that we have a city council that consists of a coalition of conservatives, Greens, and Social Democrats, and both our mayor and first councillor are independent, so they're not bound by party politics. So just an understanding of where I work and the structure, the administrative structure here in Germany and in Bad Nauheim is we have the city council, which is elected from the citizens here in Bad Nauheim that make up the highest decision-making council. We have a smaller elected decision-making council, which is the magistrate, then the administration that I work for is divided between the mayor and the first councillor. So I'm in the Department for Central Management, and my responsibilities are innovation, sustainability, and climate. But what is important in our context as well is that whatever I do in terms of sustainability doesn't just cover the city administration in terms of like the elected officials, but also our associated companies, which is in Bad Nauheim, it's the Housing Association, which is 100% public energy supplier, and city marketing. So whatever I do in terms of sustainability covers all of these areas in the city. So I started my position in mid-2021, and my job was specifically to embed the Doughnut in Bad Nauheim, to use it as a vision for connecting things that are already happening, because we all know that every city is doing things. Every city is doing things in and around sustainability, but what wasn't existing at that point was a strategic umbrella that brought all the efforts together. So that was one of the first things that I did. And also we used the Doughnut as a screening and monitoring tool to enhance transparency and accountability, to then really build the cornerstones of real transformational change in the city. As most cities, we use the Doughnut as a vision for Bad Nauheim and as a tool to get there. And the questions that we're asking ourselves is how we as a city can be home to thriving people in a thriving place while respecting the well-being of all people and the health of the whole planet. So this is kind of, with this understanding is how we started our journey. And we took Amsterdam as an example. Of course, at that point, it was Amsterdam was like the example, the North Star that we looked at. And we started with the city portrait methodology and tried to assess or try to understand what are all these different things that are already happening, and what are the connections between these different things as well. So just to create an understanding of what the Doughnut is about and where we want to go. And so this was done in a series of workshops with the upper management level of the city administration as well as the associated companies. And based on this understanding of the Doughnut, we then adapted Bad Nauheim Doughnut, where we used the dimensions of the Doughnut and looked at the ones that are specifically relevant to our local context. But our focus there was also on where are our areas of influence. So this is our city Doughnut. And with this Doughnut, so this is the basic and the vision kind of that we're working towards. And after we had this vision, we brought it out to the public. Excuse me. We had wide scale public participation forum, which span over the course of 8 months. We randomly selected citizens because we wanted to make sure that is as representative as possible of the citizens here in Bad Nauheim. And we had, in the end, we had around 90 to 100 people who were co-creating measures for the city to get into the Doughnut. This process was, we had a focus on the local ecological dimensions, and this process didn't just involve those 100 citizens, but also local businesses. There was a feedback loop with local businesses. There was a feedback loop with local civil society actors, like local groups that are active in these spheres. And we had a wider online participation where every citizen of Bad Nauheim could feedback on the different measures that were co-created in this process. Out of this process, we managed to co-create 21 measures that went directly to our city council. And as of this year, they are also passed. So the biggest step is taken, and hopefully we can now start implementing those things. Parallel to this whole awareness raising also in the city, also one of the main reasons of why we did use the Doughnut is to raise awareness of the interconnectivity of things, and also to underline the assumption that as a city or as a city administration, we can't do everything. So the transformation, the local transformation, is a collective effort where every part of the city society has their own role and their own responsibility to play. Right. So back to inside of the administration, we have kicked off a change management process where we changed the things, changed how information is managed, as well as how decisions are made. So as I said to you before, what we do, or the decision making, doesn't just span around the administration, but covers also the associated companies, where we now have regular meetings where we exchange information and make decisions together. Also, at the same time, what we did is to develop a risk assessment tool like Cornwall or like Amsterdam, how they just said, and we're still in working. So in the top right corner is the first version, and at the moment we are programming a software tool for it, where which is used to assess measures and policies according to their potential impact on every dimension of the donut. So we can make more transparent and more holistic decisions when we do things, and also adjust things in the planning process. At the same time, the tool will also have a city portrait visualization. We're currently still working on the indicators, which will, like in Amsterdam and other places, just show where we are stood in terms of the dimensions of the donut. I think I'm okay in time, so quickly, just the learnings that we had. The main learnings is while working with the public, we learned that it's really an easy to understand concept. So the visual of the donut is very powerful, and people feel seen. We have the issues before then when people, I care about this area, I care about climate change, but I care about, affordable housing, but what about me? What about me? And since the donut has it all, people feel seen and really understand that this holistic understanding also puts a focus on their needs. So that's what we found was really powerful. Then at the same time, it highlights the interconnections and synergies between the different dimensions, and it brings the people together. It's not like I'm working on this field and what you do, I don't care, but actually what we do can feed into each other. At the same time, it provides a framework to rethink processes and structures and provide the basis for change. But also what we found challenging, especially in the administrative context, is to balance this holistic understanding, and there's my timer, this holistic understanding, but not burden the project officers and civil servants with too much additional, or what seems to be additional work. So yeah, what I want to, I like finishing my presentations with this quote of a very famous visitor who also came to Bad Nauheim in 1920, who said, "I'm more interested in the future than in the past, because the future is where I intend to live." And so in this spirit, I think the donut is a wonderful way to look into the future and to look at where we want to go. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Yuge. What a good quote to wrap up on, and thank you for presenting while sick. And also, I have to say thank you for hosting our first ever in-person gathering of local governments working with Doughnut Economics that we had this year.
It was such an honor. It was such an amazing, to have you all on site and the exchange. And yeah, it was amazing. Thank you.
So yeah, I will pass on. That's also to say for those of you in the chat that may be in local governments or working with local governments, considering working with this idea, we are, as DEAL, trying to support all local governments working with Doughnut Economics, building this informal global community of practice where we can exchange with each other, learn from one another, and hopefully once a year gather in person to do it in a deep dive way. I will invite our next speaker, Paul van der Straten, who's the project leader of the Brussels Doughnut in Belgium, to talk to us about the story of Brussels working with Doughnut Economics. Paul, floor is yours.
Thank you, Eleonora.
And
Hello,
also, sorry, Paul, very sorry. Just realizing that before I was inviting people to ask questions and the chat was apparently disabled. What is a webinar without tech issues? Sorry about that. The chat is now open. I know some have been asking questions to Amsterdam as well, but just welcoming everybody to drop any comments and questions, or just share how you're feeling and where you're joining us from, or anything else. Paul, apologies. The floor is yours.
No worries. I'm going to share my screen. Yep. Okay, you see all my screen? Yeah.
We see it not full screen though.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay,
great.
here you are. Hello everyone, so my name is Paul and I'm working at implementing Doughnut Economics here in Brussels. And before we started in the content really of what we are doing here, I just want to say that maybe contrary of the other speakers today, I'm not part of the public authorities or administration. I'm part of a non-profit organization, civil society organization. And the story behind that is that in 2021, Barbara Tracht, the Secretary of State of Economic Transition here in Brussels, decided to make Doughnut economy as a frame, as a project in order to think about the economic transition. And she decided to mandate an organization, civil society organization, in order to do that. So that's why we are here as an organization. We are managing the project Doughnut, but we are working closely with the public administration and public authorities. I think as I've already heard, we try to implement like Doughnut theory in a systemic way in Brussels, meaning concretely that we try to apply at four different levels: the macro level, meso level, micro level, and nano level. And the macro level refers as the Doughnut portraits. So you have already heard in the previous presentation what is a Doughnut portrait, but basically it's representing how a city like Brussels is performing on the ecological ceiling and social foundation. And our portrait is really designed to serve as a compass to guide Brussels towards the Doughnut just and safe space. And it more precisely, it aims at answer three main questions. Are we in the Doughnut space right now? And are we moving toward the space or not? And at what speed? And I'm going to share you a new tool. Yep. Can you see my screen?
No. I think it's starting to share now. Yes,
Yeah,
I can
okay,
see it now.
perfect. Yep. Here you have the Doughnut portraits, and you have the four different lenses. Oh yeah, it's in French, sorry, but I'll explain in English. It will be all right. So you have all the dimension that we have covered in order to illustrate how Brussels performs. With this tool, you can sort of try to navigate in the Brussels Doughnut portrait. And so, for instance, we can go here in the quality of air, in the local ecological lens. And you can see like here, we have five different indicators that we have chosen in order to illustrate that dimension. And for instance, here you have like the concentration of microparticle in the air in Brussels. You have here the value. Are we moving in the right in the good direction? Yes, because the arrow is in green. And how many years will it take us in order to achieve the target that we have fixed in 4 years? And here you have like even more precision about the value, where it comes from, etc. How we fix the target, because it was a big methodological debate about how you can fix a target. It's a quite political also reflection. And so if you have question, please go on our website, and we have a full report dedicated at all the methodology we use in order to fix those targets and the rest. And here you have the answer to the three question, and you have also like the historical value, the historical story of the value, and some other explanation. So that's a bit the way we conceived our portraits here in Brussels. Yeah, and I'm going back to my other screen. Yeah, so that was the macro level. And then after we also work on the meso level, which refers to the level with public strategies and plans, public plans. And we have mainly worked on specific public strategies, the shifting economy. So it's the economic transition regional strategy here in Brussels. And so on that regard, we have really worked hand in hand with the public administration and the cabinet of Barbara Tracht. And basically, it's a big plan with more than 200 measures. But the general idea of this plan is to try to push all the economic actors of Brussels towards the donut space. And how they intend to do it is by public, financial incentives. So all the public finance and subsidies, etc., will be in this year has been increased for actors that can demonstrate that they are doing some efforts on the environmental or social dimension. And in 2030, all the public subsidies and financial support provided by Brussels will be only dedicated to those economic actors that can show that they are doing some efforts in order to try to fit in this donut zone. So that was the meso level. We have also a big part of our work was working with the actors, the economic actors, so private companies or organization, and we have run a couple of workshops with those actors by mainly doing two things. Firstly, we usually try to confront a bit those organizations with the broad and holistic view of the donut. So using the four lenses in order to analyze their activity and where they have impacts and so on. And then after also going through the 5 layers of the deep design and to have like the complete experience of the donut. So that's what we are mainly doing here in Brussels with the private and organization or non-profit organization too. And lastly, the nano level refers more to the what we are doing in order to raise awareness and educate a bit the public here. So we give a lot of presentation of what is Doughnut economy and how we apply it here in Brussels. In this work, sometimes we are also generally more for the younger public, analyzing some of our everyday object through the 4 lenses. And so it's a good tool to, a first introduction to the donuts in order to make visible all the invisible impact of our everyday impact object. And so like the smartphone or a t-shirt, you can show thanks to this tool, all the impacts and make it visible and discuss after how can we have a more responsible approach and consumption. And that's it for me.
Thank you so much, Paul, for sharing that and for all your work. I feel like you've been in a really unique spot to work yourself and with a team at so many different levels with so many different actors, and also Brussels have brought in this kind of 4 levels framework where you're really showing in a systemic way what we were talking about before, that you can work at different levels in many different entry points that are independent and interdependent at the same time. Thank you so much. I'll invite our next speakers to share the work of Glasgow, We have Charlotte Wallace, who's a Sustainability Group Manager from Glasgow City Council, and Joe Winterbottom, who's a Senior Research Fellow at the University of Glasgow.
Thank you, Leonora. Good morning or afternoon, everybody. Just to echo Leonora's point at the start, happy Global Donut Day. What a great day to be celebrating this today together. So my name is Charlotte Wallace, and I'm here representing Glasgow City Council. But really just to reiterate as well, the work we've been doing in Glasgow has been very much about working in partnership. So I'm delighted to be sharing the presentation of this session today with Joe, who's going to join in on the presentation for the second half. So you'll get to hear a little bit more from Joe later on. So what are we hoping to cover today? I guess firstly, just to reiterate that this is going to be quite a quick overview of certain aspects of what we've been doing in Glasgow and how we're translating Doughnut Economics into something which is operational for us here in the city. But even though it's an overview, both Joe and I are happy to either take questions in the session later on or to kind of follow up conversations on email if that's easier for anyone. So in terms of the content for today, sorry, Joe, Joe's moving the slides for me. We're going to do a quick overview of the Glasgow context for you to give you a little bit of an understanding of our journey, to talk a little bit about the city-university partnership. And one of the key achievements, obviously, of that piece of work has been the development of the Thriving Glasgow portrait, which we'll talk a wee bit about. And then we're going to have a look at some of the work that's in progress and underway across the city at the moment, and some of the challenges and opportunities that they present to us. Thanks, Joe. So firstly then, a little bit of background around Glasgow. Glasgow is Scotland's largest city, and it's known for its parks, its history, its culture, its architecture. But at the same time, Glasgow is facing significant challenges, those that we feel through the impact of climate change, through health inequalities, through poverty. And it's quite a challenging time for us in Glasgow, trying to juggle all of these different aspects in terms of what we're doing. But as a city, what we do have, though, is this long-term commitment to tackling the challenges. We're actively working together with lots of stakeholders from across the city to try and do this. And the content that you can see on the slide just here shows a bit of a snapshot of our climate journey. Just by way of an overview, in 2010, Glasgow set up something called the Sustainable Glasgow Partnership, which was aimed to help us to bring people together, to collaborate on these kind of really tricky systemic issues across the city. And its initial focus was actually on emissions reduction, but over time this has expanded and developed to have sustainability, well-being, and social justice very much at its heart for the city. After the City Council declared a climate and ecological emergency in 2019, work quickly got underway to co-create our climate plan, which was finalised in 2021. And this really now guides a lot of the work that's happening across the city on the breadth of sustainability actions. The plan itself, you can see the front cover image on that slide there, covers 5 main themes: communication and community empowerment, just and inclusive place, a well-connected and thriving city, health and well-being, and a green recovery. So it's really broad in what it tries to do. It includes about 60 actions that sit inside it, including the development of a Glasgow Green Deal, which is about how we finance some of these actions moving forwards. It was around supporting hosting of COP26 in Glasgow, but also it had a commitment within it for Glasgow to join the C40 Thriving Cities Initiative, which is really one of the starting places for what we're going to talk about just now. So one of the key aspects, as I've said, to our sustainability work across the city is the extent to which we need to work in partnership with others. And a little bit to do with that is around our legislation and how our local authorities are set up in terms of our role and our remit. But also it's really about how can we have the biggest impact across the city. And we know that we can do that through collaborating with others. So it's a really big priority for us as a city council. And one of the great primary examples of that has been our partnership working, which has underpinned our work on Doughnut Economics, which has been with the University of Glasgow, specifically through the NERC-funded project called Gallant. And you can see what the acronym breaks down to there, which is Glasgow as a living lab accelerating novel transformation. So the vision for Gallant, the vision for this funded project is to develop whole system solutions for a just and sustainable transition delivered at city scale. And this is a 10.5 million 5-year research programme, which is enabling really wide-ranging work to downscale the Doughnut Economics to the city level for us. We believe that the approach that we're taking in Glasgow is a little bit different in many ways to some other cities, as it goes beyond the visioning that we see sometimes in city portraits to really involve the development of indicators, the acquisition of data, and embedding wherever possible the learning into policy and process as we move forwards. So slide 5, this slide here just gives you a bit of an understanding of the journey in terms of the development of our Thriving Glasgow portrait, which was one of the initial kind of key outputs from the Gallant Project Partnership. It was undertaken between January 2022 and April 2023. The Gallant Systems Transformation Workstream worked alongside the City Council, the C40 Thriving Initiative to co-create the portrait. And as you can see from the slide, that was kind of done in 2 separate ways. First of all was some desk-based understanding of the scale of the number of different strategies and policies that the City Council has to affect change across the city. And that's just a very small snapshot on the screen. There are a huge number of things that drive the direction across the city. So there's a first kind of bit of action to really map those across to the donut to see how best we could kind of untangle that and move forwards practically in terms of practical action. The second kind of key priority through the development of the portrait was to host a series of workshops, which were run to engage as many types of stakeholders from across the city as possible. They were developed and run to ensure that the vision was being created for the city and that it was grounded in the views of the people that live and work here, as with many other cities that we've heard today. The portrait itself sets a really strong vision for Glasgow to support well-being for all people within planetary boundaries. We actually understand that this is no small feat. This is a really ambitious goal, as we know, that's going to require active and ongoing participation on behalf of Glaswegians of all walks of life. And I think one of the things we wanted to highlight, that one of the key considerations has been to ensure that we use the processes and systems that are in place within the City Council to really embed this further. So the Thriving Glasgow portrait and its definitions were approved at one of our committees, which is called the City Administration Committee in August 2023. And the portrait was launched in November 2023. We had a fantastic launch event at one of our big museums across the city, which was really well represented from all different stakeholders. And you can follow the link on this slide just here to see more detail on the portrait. I think one of the things, just to reiterate at this point as well, is that we're really lucky to have really fantastic support from the leader of the City Council in this piece of work that we're doing with the university. The leader of Glasgow City Council is Susan Aitken, and she describes the Thriving Portrait as being a guide to Glasgow's social and economic transformation and how that can and must sit within planetary boundaries. So being able to launch this and really embed this within our processes has meant that we've got really kind of senior support for what we're doing across the city just now. But what does this mean in terms of making this tangible and operational across the city? So to hopefully bring that to life a little bit, we're going to talk to you about some of the work that's underway at the moment. And the one that I'm going to talk about is something called our Climate Impact Assessment Tool. So this is an example of where our climate plan and the ambition within the portrait have come together in something very practical. So within the climate plan, there was an action for Glasgow City Council to create a climate impact assessment tool for all projects and policies that came through approval process. So in early 2024, we created our climate change impact assessment tool. And it included a requirement for policies and projects to be screened for impact against all 44 definitions of the city portrait. They also, as part of that process, need to consider both positive and negative impacts of their piece of work on these and where the potential is for them to be enhanced or to do more to help us to achieve the ambition within the portrait. The process is currently being trialed and reviewed. However, there are a number of kind of challenges and opportunities that have come through practical projects. As we know, we like to kind of try and learn from things as we go. So first of all, it's taken quite a bit of time to embed this new process within what is quite a big local authority, a lot of members of staff, and it's not straightforward. So even in itself, the sheer number of definitions, 44 definitions, is a lot, especially a lot for people that are not already engaged in these kind of conversations already. So there is a process of learning and support that we're providing to staff as we go through, and that then is an impact on my team in terms of our staff resource as well. However, what it does give us are significant opportunities. So we have now got this kind of cross-team agreement on this opportunity, on how to embed this opportunity to ensure that people know a bit more about the definitions and how their work contributes to those across the city. It's also been fantastic that we've actually been able to really fully embed it within an existing process within the council, because that means it will get done. And what it means also is that we have the outcomes from the climate impact assessment embedded through and understanding through our elected members, so through our political people as well. So that's just a bit of an overview from me. What I'm going to do now is pass over to Jo to take you through the second half of the slides.
Hi, so thanks, Charlie. Yep, I'll just give you a sort of whistle-stop tour through some of the other things we're working on, and can take further questions on those later if it's of interest. So one of the things that we're doing is developing indicators. So as many of you have pointed out already, that selecting indicators for each donut dimension is an important part of the city portrait process, as well as using them in the kind of snapshot and for giving us an indication in relation to progress. In Glasgow, we're using the indicators as part of the development of mathematical modelling, which will support the building a multi-objective optimization tool, which is something that's part of the broader Gallant project. And that meant that we developed a set of criteria for our indicators to make sure that they were, as well as being accessible and relevant and meaningful to the city, we wanted to make sure that they were kind of sensitive to policy action, could be compared, were updated, available in a time series, but also where possible disaggregated by subgroups and geography. And what we found quite quickly actually was that it's very difficult to find data that meets those criteria. So that's something we've been working on. There are some areas where the indicators are obvious. There are others that have been harder to narrow down. And for many of the global dimensions, it's been really challenging, and we will need to do further work to develop those. We've been working on these indicators with officers across the council and hope to have them firmed up in the new year, at least the local ones, local ecological and local social. But one of the things that we've learned is that engaging around the indicators has been a really good way of raising awareness of and generating buy-in in relation to the broader portrait. Another one we've been doing is building a policy action systems map, and that's something that is aimed to help us sort of identify the barriers and enablers and accelerators of change. One of the ways that we've tried to generate buy-in around this is by making it relevant to the different departments that council officers we were working with on specific projects. I can give you a sneak preview here of something that we've been doing where we've combined the mapping of policy actions from different strategies to the thriving definitions. It looks like something like this, which is pretty horrifying as a starting point, but you can dive into it and it's searchable. So this is a prototype, but it can be searched using keywords, and it's possible to focus on the connections and sort of dive in and find further detail on what you need. So if you're interested in that and how we've been using it, then do please get in touch. Initial feedback suggests that it's already been really helpful to council officers, and it's helping them think in a more systemsy way, which is something that Bad Nauheim mentioned earlier on. We've got the digital donut, which is available on the website at the moment, which already has links where you can click on each definition. But as we develop the indicators, we'll be developing the measures where you can see how well things are going in relation to each of those thriving definitions. One of the challenges is, of course, is something that I think several of you have already faced, is where do you put the thresholds for these when you're starting to put these on the diagram. So just to kind of sum up our next steps, that we've got work to do to continue to raise awareness and build commitment to the thriving definitions. We're going to try and make sure that we've got the local indicators integrated with broader university work, and also Glasgow policies, strategies and plans, and looking to further develop the donut. And then also we've got more work to do around the systems map and making that available based on making improvements based on the feedback that we've already had. So just to sum up, there's some links here which we can post in the chat. I think Leonora's done some of that already, and certainly we're happy to take inquiries for particular questions, and we'll be in the Q&A session later on.
Thank you so much, Jo and Charlotte. And it's always so good to hear how much can come out of a powerful partnership between a city and a university, something that is often truly not harnessed enough. And to introduce our final speaker for today, another case of a powerful partnership working between actors, we have Dr. Zulkarin Mohammed, who's the CEO of Ipoh Doughnut Economics Center, who's going to tell us a bit about the experience of Ipoh in Malaysia with their work with Doughnut Economics.
Thank you, Lenora, and good afternoon, Lenora, fellow panelists, viewers, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Zulkarnain Mohammed. I'm from Ipoh City Council, and I'm very happy to be here with you. If I can share the slides with you, share our experience in Ipoh City Council. We are learning. And first, I want to wish everybody a happy Global Doughnut Days. And we will be celebrating on the 13th of November with our primary schools in Ipoh. And also on the 24th of November, we are having Ipoh Low Carbon Day with City Council. We will celebrate Global Doughnut Days on those 2 days. Just sharing this information. And I hope I can work with the slides. And like I said, we are
I hope everybody can see the slides.
We can see them, Maysara. I believe
Okay,
Maysara will be switching them for you.
I will be controlling them, and Dr. Zulku
Oh,
stand by
okay.
for the queue.
All right. Thank you, Maysara. That's our powerful partner from Sunway University in Malaysia. Okay, thank you. Okay, we're trying to have a resilient city, and this is part of learning process, like I said. And then we have so many plans in Ipoh. We inherited from the British the Town and Country Planning Act, and from there we have so many plans. But we hope Doughnut Economics will help us to reimagine Ipoh, city with identity, because Ipoh was one of the biggest how do you say that? It was the biggest tin mining city in the world at one time. We produced the most volume of tin in the world in the 40s, 50s, 60s. And in fact, there was a Mercedes-Benz logo big on the hill of Ipoh because at one time, Ipoh had per capita Mercedes-Benz, the highest per capita Mercedes-Benz in the world at one time. And then after the price of tin fell, Mercedes-Benz had to took down the symbol from the hill of Ipoh, and now we are trying to have a regenerative economy instead of a resource-based economy. Okay. Ipoh still remains green and eco-friendly, with 60% of its land still preserved as green areas, and we have so many ex-mining ponds, ex-mining land. We are reusing them. We hope for the better. And for example, lakes, we are turning those ex-mining ponds into tourism spots, and to try to have as green as possible, to use perhaps Doughnut Economics as a basis. We have one project. It's called Tasik Cermin. It's a glass. We translated as a glass lake. It was an ex-mining lake, and we try to preserve and rejuvenate the area, not only in terms of the ecology, but also in terms of the social. We are dealing with our partners in the private sector to have boating activities, but we ask them to have so that the composition of the workers are local and also comprised of. We have several ethnic groups in Ipoh, as in Malaysia, Malays, Chinese, Indians. So we want to have a fair representation of, in fact, of the workers in in the area of tourism. Okay. Okay, next. And also we want Doughnut Economics to be a means towards a resilient, human-centric city. It's more of a concept, we are not abandoning GDP-based economics. We will still will use GDP and per capita income and all that, but we're using Doughnut Economics, especially in terms of the ecological ceiling and also in terms of managing the shortfall of the social foundation. This is one of the old town of Ipoh. And our roadmap, we started in 2022, adoption of Doughnut Economics in the state. There is a master plan for, we have, like I said, we have so many plans. It's a matter of implementation. In 2022, in fact, Professor Kit Rayworth came to Ipoh and gave a talk on Doughnut Economics at the request of the state government. And it's more like a top-down approach. The state government made a master plan where at that time, I was the mayor of Kuala Kangsar, which is a royal town. And for Kuala Kangsar, the royal town, the vision was to be a global Malay royal town. But for Ipoh, is for Ipoh to be a Doughnut Economic City by 2027. When I retired as mayor, I came back to Ipoh and I was asked by the mayor, Datuk Rumaizi, to join back the city council. I was with the city council for 34 years before as a town planner. So I'm happy to join back, and this is our roadmap where we started a unit, my unit, and started in 2023 last year in May, and we have made some progress. Especially, we had a good cooperation with the state government, represented by a think tank called Institute Darul Ridwan, or the State Institute think tank, and also our knowledge partner, which is Hanway University, which we are very happy helping us on creating programs and having all sorts of buy-ins, educate the public, and educate. In fact, first of all, we have to educate our city hall officers and also heads of departments. We are shifting the narrative from a tin mining industry to a regenerative economy, and we are working good progress, but not as fast as other cities like Amsterdam or the other examples that we have seen, like Glasgow. But we are learning, and we hope it's not too late. And but the most important is to educate the public, which is a tough one. Because we have so many plans, and they say, "Oh, this is just another plan." But I strongly believe that it is going to work because this is part of our life, the ecology and also the social well-being. And okay, next slide. We're working on the Ipoh Doughnut Economic City Portrait in Action. We are a little bit different because we use not only the concepts, but also we use the legislations. I'm not sure about other cities, but we are strongly using our legislations, for example, Town and Country Planning Act, Local Government Act, and also Road Drainage and Building Act. Because in Town Planning Act, when we give planning permission, we give development order, we can impose certain things. For example, the use of solar, solar energy. We can impose the use of rainwater harvesting and things like that, which I think will help to expedite the process of turning Ipoh from a tin mining city into a more, which has a more regenerative economy. And this is part of the Ipoh Doughnut Economics City Portrait and Action. This is our action plan, and we are detailing it according to indicators and also indexes. And for example, we have 14 components for the social and 8 components for the ecological, and also indicators, 21 indicators, 33 indicators. We have experience using these indicators and components because we have the smart city master plan. We have the what you call urban. I cannot translate it, but we have these indicators for other plans, and we are merging them and see if they can work so that when we want to achieve Ipoh as a donut economic city by certain years, and then we should be able to do that. And some of the social foundation indicators, like some other cities that we have seen, food, water, energy, and all that, and we are putting this in the action plan. And also I forgot to mention, not only we use the 3X, which control not only planning permission, building control, licensing, approval, and all that. We will put, for example, social benefits in the licensing part, so that they will get insurance, and anything happen to the workers. But we're working with the insurance companies to give them the best possible price, so that it won't burden the licensees. And this is the ecological foundation indicators on biodiversity, environmental quality, land use, and all that. And we are trying to yeah, and then this is living within the Doughnut and Ipoh partnership for the goals. Most important, we are working with Sunway Center for Planetary Health, Sunway University, working with Institute Darul Ridwan and Hasanah Foundation, Yayasan Hasanah, and the government and the Ministry of Finance to working together. And this is the Sustainable Goals number 17, which embodies the principle that sustainable development. We are working together with all the parties. It's not a one-man show. We're working especially with Sunway Center for Planetary Health as our knowledge partner. I think basically, okay. Next, okay, feature demonstrator project that I would like to share with you. The key themes, the 3 key themes: regenerative, planetary health, and community empowerment for Ipoh. And next. Okay. Regenerative, X mining land, we're turning it into a tourism spot, and use all the principles of sustainable city. And then we have this old market, the central market, regenerative. This is one of the green buildings in Ipoh. It's owned by the city council. It used to be a market, but and a supermarket, and then it was abandoned. We transformed it into a one-stop center where you can have all the government. There are many government offices here, so you can have. You don't have to travel many places. You just come here and you can settle a lot of government dealings here. And also, as this is all the limestone hills in Ipoh, we are doing a feasibility study exploring potential of the karst hills, their capacity to absorb and release carbon. This is one of the things that we are doing at City Council. We're working together with other agencies, and this is a community-based disaster risk management, and this is also part of the Doughnut Economics. We might do it differently from other cities, but this is how we understand it in terms of the donuts. Okay, and we also have trash for cash, where you can sell the trash using a machine, and they will pay into your account based on the quality of the trash and all that. And then we have a community empowerment, Ipoh as a food and City of Music. We just got UNESCO City of Music award, not award, as a recognition of Ipoh as a UNESCO City of Music, showing different cultures. We have Malay, music, Chinese, Indian, indigenous, and it's part of our vision to have a better life for the citizens of people. Okay, and I thank you. And I think we have question and answers at the next session. And again, I would like to thank Dale, Leonora, and everybody. And like I said, we are learning, we are working on it, and hopefully we'll be as good as some other cities later. Thank you very much.
And you will be inspiring other cities as well. Thank you, Dr. Sulk. I know the time that we have doesn't do justice to talk through all your demonstrator projects, all the ways in which you're exploring what does it mean to transform an industrial town into a regenerative town, respecting the planetary boundary is a huge challenge for so many places that have relied on industries. I have to unfortunately close our session today. I would like to thank all our speakers and our participants. I would like to invite everybody. I'm just going to share my screen for a second to show this where we'll be after this in 15 minutes. If you go to the platform where you'll be registered to the Global Doughnut Day platform and go to the open space and then join us in government and policy, we'll be in this sort of informal chatting space. If you want to ask any questions, talk about anything with any of the speakers, you can follow the link that Leah just shared in the chat, and we'll be there. And of course, do check the cities and regions, the update of the cities and regions guide, where you'll be able to read a lot more and follow a lot more links and details to a lot of the case studies that were shared today. We have another session coming in the afternoon, so hopefully see some of you there. And thank you so much again for joining us. Bye.